you can bring the songs to me, and most guys that are out there, they never want to close their door completely because you don't want to miss something that's interesting. But when the downside of the indie world is that we don't have near the budgets that the big guys used to have. So when I sign a songwriter to my company, they're never going to get that weekly salary that I used to have when I was signed to Island or Welk or Tobin or Sony or whatever, Polygram, any of those. That money's not there anymore for that. And but I'd be silly to not be looking at it. And it's the same side with the production deal. I mean, because of White Apple Tree, I got a jillion bands wanting me to look at their record and produce, maybe produce some product on them. But I can't take all those. I can only take a few things at a time that I can work on, or, there's a band I really, really like out of San Diego. They were called Ivy Boy, and they just changed their name, which I can't. It's funny because they changed their name to something I can't remember. And I asked him about that too. But I really like them, and it's one that I would take on. But I've got this, and I've got this. I manage a writer named Pamela Olin, and she takes a lot of my time to get her to the. She's been a very, very successful writer in the past, from Frank Sinatra to Aretha Franklin, Selena, Whitney Houston. I mean, just every big major artist you can think of, she's had a cut by. But in the last 10 years, she hasn't had those cuts. And so I've taken her on in the last 2.5, 3 years to basically manage her songwriting career and co-publish her. A lot of work, tons of work. Because in some cases I'm having to go and reestablish situations with stuff that has been gone for a long time,
Right.
And luckily she works hard too. And that's the other side of it. I can't do it all. I'll touch on that because it's really important. Just because you want it and just because you get it to me or somebody like me, that's not the end of the job. That's just the beginning of the work that has to happen. And I spent a good year with White Apple Tree before I actually signed them to something, to make sure he had the work ethic that was going to get the job done. And it was the same with Paul. I mean, Paul and I worked for 2 years. Paul Jefferson worked for 2 years, just figuring it all out to make sure we were going to get all this the way we wanted it. And I had to know that these guys are willing to work as hard as they're willing to work. So I typically don't sign anybody that I don't believe that to be, something they can do. And so, but like anybody else, I'm looking. Our attorneys, the problem with in today's world is the attorneys say, don't take anything. Don't take anything new. Because somebody's going to come back, especially in a world like I'm in, because I am a publisher, I am a songwriter, I have ideas of my own too. And they all generate, we all do this, you hear something on the street and you go, good idea, I'll jot that down. You might even hear a song somewhere and go, what if I did a twist on that? So it's a little bit unnerving, when their attorneys don't want you to even listen to new material. You've got to go, why am I here then? What am I supposed to do? How am I going to find a new act? So there are issues with that have come in the last 10 or 15 years that really didn't exist in the 60s and 70s and 80s. People just played people's music and you picked it up if you liked it and went on, So I'm open. It's limited in a lot of cases, so the ones that do get in, or and even people that I know that are really talented have come to me and they'll look at a band and they'll go, why are you working for them? My band is like 10 times more talented and 10 times more this and da-da-da-da-da. Well, I find the thing that works for me too. And maybe that attitude of where he was just then is exactly what I don't want to work with.